Most companies die in the first 5 years. It's like an overwhelming majority. If you can last longer than that, you almost have like 100% guaranteed chance that you're going to survive. It's crazy, actually. We think that we can automate the social media manager's role. The role of like a content writer is totally going to be augmented. The way that you can combat this is if you understand how to deploy these tools, how to use these tools, like it turns a 10x person into a 100x person. Build cash flow engines, buy S&P, and buy real estate.
Welcome back to the Beyond the Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Andres Sanchez, and today I have Cody Schneider. Cody is a good friend of the pod and one of the few people that has gotten a second invite to come back on the show. So congrats on being in that select few of people who have come on for a second time. Brother, I'm so excited to have this conversation, and thank you for taking the time because I know it was short notice.
Oh, dude, stoked, man. Always happy to jump back on. Just let me know. If anybody ever no shows or cancels, I'm here. So,
yeah, for sure. And that's a subliminal message that the person that did not show up for the time slot they booked today. So, dude, it's so exciting to have you back on the show. You and I have stayed pretty close after recording, and you are probably one of the most interesting people on Twitter, in my opinion. By far one of the best follows you can make if you're a Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, user. You're constantly dropping content. Somehow you have figured out how to just flood my feed with shit. Like I just only see
pissed about it. Honestly, it's like I'm at the point where I'm like, yo, don't engage with any of my stuff because I will own your feed is what will happen. So anyway, yeah,
dude,
I feel like me and Kasha, I think it's Kasha. It's like Kache. He's also owning that like everybody's feed currently, and all we're doing is shit posting. Like that's what it's coming down to is working. So anyway,
all right. Well, I already got value from this interview because I will not interact with his stuff because I can only deal with one person kind of flooding my feed right now. But dude, I know you're building some really cool stuff. You've been really putting an emphasis on jumping on podcasts. So I've gotten the chance to get to hear what you're up to, even though we talk on Twitter and kind of go over some stuff. I just listened to one of your most recent podcasts and I absolutely love the structure of it. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to rip it. Like I do want to have a similar conversation because I got so much enjoyment from it. And that is like, you have this plethora of startup ideas. You're really focused on Swell AI, your baby right now, but you can't stop coming up with really good business ideas. So I'll do what the last host did. Shout out to Greg. Let's go over 5 ideas that you have right now on your long list of startups and just start riffing through them.
Totally. Man, I'm trying to think one that happened recently that I was super excited about. So I think the things, and maybe to frame this conversation, like what I'm obsessed with right now is like kind of this framework of, okay, you build a consulting agency, you figure out a problem, you turn that into a productized service, and then you build software behind it that like then supports that like thing that you're doing. And so like an example of this would be like, okay, cool. You figure out how to, do video editing for clips. And then you go and you offer unlimited podcast clip video editing to podcasters, right? And then from there, that turns into, okay, then I go make a clip, AI powered clip making software. So like that is like a something that I feel like is like a very easy path for a lot of people to kind of walk down, especially if you're in your like first beginning stages of this whole thing. But with that said, there's kind of different paths with all these things that I'm like really focused on. It's like, how do you build these companies where it's like a repeatable process that's like a productized service? And then like, how do you get AI to be basically behind that, working in the background on this? Like cold email is another great example of this, where it's basically, okay, you 0 to 1 own cold email for these companies, but behind, in the background, can you get build an AI agent to basically manage all of the inboxes and be doing the responding and scheduling meetings, right? So, but on the actual business like that, I'm kind of like really excited about. I think one of them right now is this stuff related to TikTok shops. So like all of this is going viral. It's crazy, right? And I think brands, especially e-com brands, they're wanting to basically figure out, they want as many people promoting their products on TikTok shop as possible, right? So I think there's probably an opportunity where it's like you become the broker for that. So you're going and you're reaching out to all of these creators and basically saying it's probably building like this stable of creators. And then from that, you go and you are then creating doing cold outreach to Shopify stores. You can go find all of those emails using a tool like Built With, honestly, Apollo has a huge database of this as well, Apollo.io. So you can select the technology that a company is using, as an example, Shopify, and then you can go and reach out to all of these companies that are basically, own Shopify stores. And so with that though, like what you could then do is basically you turn into, hey, we are this agency that manages TikTok influencers for you to do TikTok shop promotions, right? And it's not even influencers. I would call them like content creators. There's this whole new category of people that are coming out, and they're almost just like, you pay them $1 to $2 grand a month is typically what their pricing is. And what they'll do is they do like a video a day on these For You page type platforms. So think TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, any of these things that you don't have to be following them to get the data to you're basically to get reach on the platform. And they, go find these people and be like, hey, I'm going to broker these deals for you. You take a rake over the top of it, or you just charge a higher fee where it's like, for, say the influencer or the TikTok creator is wanting to, make $1 grand a month per brand that they're working with, then you go charge the brand $2K and you've got a 50% margin there, right? And I think what this scales up into is like you could basically turn into almost this talent agency for these creators. If TikTok's doing it and seeing success, it's just a matter of time before YouTube and also Instagram in particular will probably copy it fastest. But what this evolves into is like you basically, I'm just imagining like a single creator as an example. They could probably manage, we'll say 5 different clients that they're working with. You're basically the bridge in between them. And so they make, 5 to 10K a month. And a lot of the times these are like recent college grads that are, they're just looking to not have a real job, or it's like some side hustle for them to do this. And for you, it's like, okay, you can go make, again, 5 to 10K on top of that by charging that upfront fee. So I think that's something that we're going to see happen in the near future. But anyways, yeah, just a random one I ran into recently that I thought would be interesting. So
yeah, no, and I've definitely seen people going towards that. Like I know somebody in Miami, his name is Jimmy, and I don't want to pronounce his last name incorrectly, so I'm not going to say it, but his company's Creators Corner. And they're doing this like community around like, hey, pay a high ticket, we'll train you up, and we'll just start putting you on offers. So they're getting like companies that partner with them that need creators. They're getting creators to come in, pay a high ticket because they know they're guaranteed opportunities to make the money back. And it's turned into this extremely profitable kind of thing. And it speaks to what you're saying. Like you think of these PR agencies that are huge, that were big when magazines were huge or movies were huge or TVs, they would place these celebrities. Now we're getting to this newer version of celebrities, which are TikTok celebrities, Instagram celebrities. And that is a perfect way to capture that and vet the talent and kind of be like, I mean, maybe I'll get some flack for this, but you're kind of like a creator pimp. You're just moving these people around, putting them on different offers. And for people listening that are like, man, why would I pay a creator $1,000 to $2,000? Because I'm sure there's somebody sitting there thinking that. The sauce is like you get a good creator, they might make 30 videos, 2 of them go viral, you do good organically, then you use those already proven videos and run paid ads to them. Exactly. And now you have an absolute money printing machine. So I promise if you get a good creator, you're going to make that money back. So I think that's an amazing business idea.
Totally. And I think that that's the thing that people don't realize, right? Is like traditionally, if I wanted to go and work with like a larger influencer and do some type of influencer campaign, I mean, I'm going to at least pay them 2K, right? That's like for one post. We don't know if the video is going to hit. And we all know with all when it comes down to ad creative, it's all the variations that are creating the outcomes or the outputs. Or basically like if you test 30 pieces of creative against each other, you're going to see that there's going to be, a lot of the times 5% of those are going to perform better than the rest, right? And so then it's allocate all of my ad spend there. This is just a way to basically get that to happen. There's also this knock-on effect that happens when you start to see videos that go viral from a specific creator, you can take that same idea and you remix it with your whole, like a group that you're working with. So you basically have a learning engine that starts to occur with that amount of people that are there. And so you can basically, these greatest hits, you can play them over and over again, but in different ways, and still get that same impact to happen. So yeah, I just think with for you page content is kind of changing the game is what what we're all realizing. It allows these brands overnight to go from like non-existent to huge. I mean, and you're seeing it's really interesting to see kind of all of these like low quality products really own this space so far. Like Temu is a great example. They're doing a lot of this. These types of companies that don't have as much brand trust. But what happens when you put a really trustworthy brand behind that's where it gets super interesting. And I think there's a ton of value there that can be captured through that process. So
yeah, and I think like a lot of people are undervaluing TikTok Shop as like the prime example. Like people don't understand how much money people are willing to spend on there. Like I've never bought anything on TikTok Shop, and I'm that guy that's like, dude, I'm not buying anything on here that's more than $20 because like there's no way. But then I've got my fiance's dad who bought a $99 vacuum on TikTok Shop and fucking loves that thing. It works really well. And like that to me is a prime example of, dude, this has some staying power, whether it stays on TikTok or it moves to Snapchat or it moves to Instagram. I even saw on YouTube Shorts, you can shop now. You can hit a button that says shop. So like everybody's moving towards this, which is why like that whole, if TikTok gets banned, somebody else is just going to eat that right up. And I think it'll most likely be Meta.
All those companies, I mean, why does social exist, right? Like the whole point of it is they're trying to keep you on platform for as long as possible. So as long as you are making content that keeps people more on platform, like you're going to get greater distribution. So TikTok figured out this strategy, this For You page content strategy, and all these other, you're seeing like LinkedIn is rolling out their own shorts, right? Like this happened in the last 2 weeks. Like Twitter is also experimenting with this. Like, why is this all happening? Well, they basically are selling your attention, right? And so the longer that you stay on platform, the more attention they can sell. And they found that, this type of content where it's like you don't even have to know anybody. There's no social graph built into it. It's just we know your interests and we serve you content that's related to your interests. That is what keeps people on platform longer. That allows us to sell more ads. So the incentive there for the company is to do this, right? That's why everybody's moving there. So for us as marketers and creators and business owners, we have to take that into account with our marketing strategies. Like this is the future that everything's headed towards. So we have to think about, okay, how do we make content that basically taps into that? And if we make content that fits that new paradigm, what we get the benefit from it for us is that we get this organic reach and we get organic growth to happen through those channels.
Have you noticed this like big push for games on some of these untraditional platforms?
Yeah, Netflix was one. It was so crazy. I saw that. I was like, I can't imagine anybody doing that, But
Dude, LinkedIn has games now.
LinkedIn
saw that has a
too.
LinkedIn game section. The New York Post has a game subscription where you pay like $6.99.
That's their biggest revenue stream. Did you see that? Their data just came out, and it's that's
bro. They did like 400. They did 400 million in Q4 alone.
Insane. It's absolutely insane. So I don't know.
It's crazy
I was shocked by
how
that.
creative. Yeah, totally. And like I don't know if we heard it from the same place, but I like to listen to MFM. Yeah. And they were talking about it, and it's like whoever can go ahead and go to like a LinkedIn and say, hey, open up your API. I'm going to build unlimited games and go and offshore a bunch of talent and use AI and just start building game after game. And then LinkedIn just buys whichever ones get traction. They let you post them up, and then they just go and purchase the ones that have traction. We'll make a couple $1 million off that idea. And I'm sure somebody's already doing it.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be the same thing that happened previously on Facebook, right? With like Facebook games, it'll be that same trajectory. So what the funniest part with all this is like everything is just repeats. Like time is a flat circle and it just goes over and over again. If you wait long enough, it's just the same tricks and strat. I mean, email's back, baby. We're doing stuff with email right now where I'm just like, it's the most insane thing I've ever seen. And so anyway, with all that said, I think that your job as a founder, as a marketer, as a business owner is always like, look for the arbitrage. Once you've identified it, like deploy as many resources you have available to that thing, because that's the nature of an arbitrage. It goes away over time, right? And so it's keeping that mindset is something that I'm kind of the mantra that I'm chanting at this point.
Yeah. So I have now a business idea that I want to tear through. That it's something that I think is a great idea. I haven't started it yet. And I just don't think I have time. So somebody go ahead and rip me off here. And it's not something that's not already being done, but I just don't think people are doing it the right way. You mentioned on a previous podcast that you would in another life would just go crush local SEO and clean windows and make a couple $1 million a year. So my thought is like, so Miami, for example, very expensive to live here. Most neighborhoods are affluent neighborhoods. Nobody cleans their trash cans. Like, what about a company that would come through and clean your trash can twice a month, 3 times a month, whatever it is, go ahead and charge you a subscription fee to come through, and you just target the neighborhoods that have the money to spend on something like that. And also you target HOAs, like HOAs that have all these communities that want their community to look nice. You go through, and then even more on top of that, have you ever walked behind a restaurant and seen what their trash cans look like and their like back area looks like? It's like the most disgusting thing in the world. I'm thinking of a company that just comes in and charges like a subscription, and you got an
Here's how I
employee
market that. Whenever you're ready, I'll tell you like how I do. Yeah. So
go rip it.
I would optimize for Google Maps. So like it looks like there's search volume. I'm just seeing it right now. Trash bin cleaning Miami. It's like 10 searches a month, nothing crazy, but that's enough for you to like run. It's probably, just to put a number on it, you could probably get this to like I'm guessing like a 30K a month business with maybe like 2 employees under you that are working on this as well. Not even that. You could probably do it just yourself at that, in all honesty. So how I'd go about doing this, I would go and I would buy addresses for the top income zip codes in that area. So all this data is public. You can basically see which are the wealthiest zip codes in a specific zone. With those zip codes, you then basically take those addresses and you use a tool like lob.com. Lob is basically a direct mail, physical mail sender, right? You could make a piece of mail on like Canva, and then you would go and basically use Lob to send out these flyers to these home addresses. So when I've done direct mail in the past, the most effective thing is get the biggest one that you can. You want it to be like obnoxiously big. That's what people always grab and what they look at most. Have a QR code on there with some type of offer that they get. It's like first cleaning half off, or whatever that ends up being. And I think the kicker here would be like you put them on some type of subscription. Like that would be the actual revenue generator long term, and the value that you could generate is like, hey, every 3 months we come back and we basically clean this over and over again. So I think that's a layer of this. I think another thing you could do is then take those same flyers and just go and door knock, like have some kid go out and he's just taping them to the door, or putting them in the of these neighborhoods. Just have them walk and basically do that. You could also target those same neighborhoods with ads on Facebook. So you can do zip code based targeting as well. And if you wanted to even get more specific, you can do Facebook ads to individuals that are in like top 5% of income earners in an area. And so you can like do a radius, like 50-mile radius, and then anybody that's in, the top 5%. Ads that I would run, super simple. It's like a bin before and after. That's the entire thing. The other way I'd monetize this is I would record all of the cleanings and I'd put those on YouTube and YouTube Shorts. You can make a massive channel on top of that. Have you seen those guys that like go and like do lawn work, and it's that same strategy? It's like basically cleaning that piece. And then the probably the play that or the marketing thing I would do as well, that you could do on top of this is probably like cold DMs to people in those neighborhoods. I don't know if that would work as effectively though. I think actually what would probably work more effectively is just cold emailing people. So you can use sites like let me go find the one that I like while I'm talking about this. But basically you can buy emails of people in specific zip codes. Same strategy again. So you'd go and you'd find all of the people. Let me do buy cold email or buy email lists. I can find you the one that I've used and like. Let me find the name. Sorry. So take Leads Please is the one that we've used in the past, and I've had good success with. So leadsplease.com. You can export that list of emails. Use a service like Zero Bounce to validate those emails, and then you'll take those emails and you'll use something like Instantly or Instantly AI to basically do the cold email to those people. And I think with that alone, you could probably get this thing scaled up within 6 months to you're doing 30K a month, like 100%. So anyway, yeah, that's my. Again, if I was 21 and trying to figure out like how do I make my first racks, like that's what I would go do, is something like this all day long. So,
Dude, it's funny you say that because like I think back too, and like, oh, let's be honest, I'm not gonna go out and clean trash cans right now. Like I'm not gonna get myself in the fucking 98-degree weather in Miami and do it. If I was 21 and knew what I knew now, I would be hustling my ass off doing some of these kind of dirt under your finger startups that you could leverage cold email or leverage these different marketing tactics that other companies are not doing that are in that space. Because I go through, like, there are some with clever name like Clean Cans or like trash can cleaning service, but like never seen them. Never in my life have I driven through a neighborhood where anybody's getting their trash can cleaned. I've heard it's bigger in the Northeast, like that it's an actual thing that people do and it's not uncommon. I think right now, if I knocked on my neighbor's door and asked them if they wanted me to clean their trash can, they would look at me like I'm strange. But I think there's like a valid business there and something that you literally just run it up through Google and like some Facebook ads. And like you said, be making 30K a week, 30K a month cleaning trash cans.
I got a business for you. This one is like you need a little bit of expertise, but like, so my friend, he is a paramedic, works at a firehouse. And so his side gig is he just like does IVs. So you can go get like a phlebotomy license. It's like pretty easy to get these, which is crazy. But basically, you can administer these. Sometimes you have to have a cosign, so like a nurse practitioner or doctor, But long story short, they charge $185 per person per session.
Whoa.
Now, most of them that they're servicing is, and I'm based in Denver, it's going to be bachelorette and bachelor parties. And so they basically get these after like a big night out type things, and they'll schedule this 10 people. So it's like $1,800 for an hour session is what this comes down to. Okay. So the strategy for this to actually go and build this out. So it's just an Instagram account. Like you just basically you just do videos of you like giving people IVs and then just like, whatever the setting is, super straightforward just to prove that you're real. But then you can run these ads now on Facebook that you can target people that are engaged currently. So in a geography, they are currently engaged. And he's like, majority of them are female that we end up doing. That's who actually is making the purchasing decision. But you can run ads to people or to women that are engaged currently. Like that's their active status. And then what you can do is do Instagram DM ads. So you basically imagine on Instagram, this ad comes up that's like, get IVs for your bachelorette, whatever that ends up being. And then the call to action is to message the Instagram account. The Instagram account has all these videos of you doing this basically. And I think that is, again, just like another, that's an easy 10K a month business that you could probably scale up in a couple of months and do this. Again, it takes a little bit of like requirements from like a medical standpoint. Like that's a very specific niche, but if I was like a nurse or something, I'd be doing this all day long. Like it just feels like such an easy way to go about it. But anyway.
Dude, my fiance's cousin is a nurse, and we're pretty close. I might be spinning this up on the side here and
I love it,
handling
man.
the ads part.
I love it.
That's awesome. So you publicly talk a lot about startup ideas. You talk about different ways that you would create these companies. Have you had anyone that's taken you up on it and come back and said, dude, I'm making 20K a month. Thanks for this free idea?
Yeah, I mean, so after I went on the Greg pod, there was tons of people that were like trying basically all these things that we talked about. The one that was most interesting was like this dude was basically building out this massive e-commerce Shopify store based off of the keywords that we had talked about on the show and just like, going after it. The challenge with all this is like a lot of the times people don't have the expertise for these specific things. Like you got to be really good at link building or understand that component of it to do this. I think that like, and in all reality too, man, like most people are entrepreneurs. So like if you look at the data, only 9% of the US has started a company and at some point in their career. And 200, in contrast, like 200 million people want to start a business actively at like any given moment, right? And so in reality, like when you look at like even, this episode, like a lot of what's going to come down to is like, it's almost like junk food for people, right?
Yep.
It's like, here's these ideas that I can go and build. With that said, like, hopefully it's the catalyst for it. But there's a reason, like, for Greg Eisenberg, like him changing his podcast name to the Startup Ideas Podcast was one of the best business decisions that he could have ever made. And the reason for that is because you basically like you're feeding that larger audience group. You're going to still get that subset of people that want to listen to this. But the other kicker is that every segment within that show will be able to be chopped up into all of these smaller bite-sized pieces. So it's just like basically this perfect recipe to make viral moments, right? The challenge is how do you get good guests that actually know what they're talking about and what they're doing.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest part with all of these things. And so anyway, yeah, I've seen some of it. In all reality, like majority of them will probably be over in the first 90 days. For most companies, it's like most companies die in the first 5 years. It's like over, an overwhelming majority. If you can last longer than that, you almost have like 100% guaranteed chance that you're going to survive. It's crazy, actually. And so that's always the game that you're playing with, like any new company, is how do you get past that tipping point? For a lot of people, like that's a huge, especially if you're young, that's a huge time frame. Like you're like, I have to invest 5 years into this. Like I need to feed myself tomorrow, right? And so it's like figuring out, okay, what is this thing that like I can do right now that creates impact when you're in those earlier stages. But anyway, total digression there on the philosophy behind companies and stuff. But anyway,
yeah, it's interesting. And like, so for the company you're building, Swell, a lot of it is AI based. I mean, you could just listen to some of your other interviews. You get pretty lit up when you talk about AI and pumped about it. What if you had to take a guess? What 5 job titles? And if it's too specific, we could go industries. But what 5 job titles you think are going to be wiped out by AI first?
Yeah, man. So I'm obsessed with this, honestly, right now in particular. So we are just starting to see stuff happen with like AI agents, which is, I think it's just going to change the fabric of what it means to own a company. So these agents, initially people were like, we're going to get this thing to like think like a CEO. And it's like, no, like I don't want that. Like what I want is like a junior employee that has a very specific job task that needs to get done. And I just want them to own that thing, right? So like a great example of this and like something that we're experimenting with as well. And I think we're going to build, like this is like, probably will exist within our product by the end of the year. It's like we think that we can automate the social media manager's role, right? So like when you break down what a social media manager was traditionally, like what they were is like they would find content, curate content, they would schedule it, it would post, they would look at the data of the top performers, they'd go back, they'd make more content based off of the top performing posts. And then it creates this growth flywheel that happens. So that whole thing that I just described there can be augmented by one of these AI agents at this point. It's like you have a corpus, have a whole library of back catalog of content. And like AI, go find me hooks related to digital marketing from that back catalog. Okay, cool. It finds those hooks. It makes the clips. It adds the captions. It does the auto cropping, schedules them out to the platforms. Then it posts those. It looks at the data. Okay, these 5 clips out of the 30 we posted in the last month, they're the top performers. Let's go back to our back catalog and find more like those, or basically remix these clips over and over again. And so that's like an example of this, that where we see this could happen. I think the role of like a content writer is totally going to be augmented. You're going to still have these people, but they're going to be more, I keep calling them like jockeys, like, they're riding this tool. They're like using this tool in a way.
Yeah.
The other one that we see kind of being an inevitability on the horizon is like the BDR role. So that's like basically doing like customer, basically ICP research validation. Is this person like a fit or not? These tools are incredible at that. Something else that I just talked to this company, it's so interesting, but they're basically built a chat agent that's like a live chat, like on the phone, right? For car dealerships. And they're like, hey, like our whole go-to-market isn't trying to replace your current sales reps. We're going to be online, like this phone, the answering system will be when you're not currently in office, right? So when it's 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and nobody's there, but people still call you, we'll answer it. And we find that we can convert 30% of the people that are calling, or whatever that ends up being. But think about that for like junk removal and for, like plumbing or any of these companies that like traditionally don't have a full, around the clock service team. This is just a way for them to basically automate that role. So I think that that's another thing that's going to happen. One that, is obvious as well is just customer support. Like everybody that we know is experimenting with this and building out these agents. And maybe it can't do everything, but it can it can answer 60% of the questions about the product. So, I mean, of course I'm going to do that. And then I think another one that we're starting to see as being kind of an inevitability is really just like data analytics and building these BI tools, right? So like traditionally, if I wanted to know something about like the health of my company, I'd build a dashboard out and this whole thing. But we're starting to see it become very, just very capable at saying, almost in real language. Like I just saw this demo, it was wild, but it was basically this whole data set of like Shopify sales data. And then it was somebody just asking questions against that. And so what the AI does is it basically like listens to the question and it understands the like structure of the data. And then it writes like a Python script that will make the like a visualization of that data based off of the question that I asked, right? And this is a way for me to interact with the data, right? Just how I would interact with the analyst. So I think to take a step back, like the higher level thing that's happening here is all of these kind of entry level roles are becoming augmented or automated in a way. And so, if I was young, I would be like looking out like how, like what, but the way that you can combat this is if you understand how to deploy these tools, how to use these tools, like it turns a 10x person into a 100x person, right? So It's just figuring out how to basically augment yourself with this and make yourself almost superhuman with it. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I've had this conversation with a lot of people in the corporate world and a lot of friends outside that own companies. It's just very obvious that what you said is going to happen. 10x people will go to 100x. If I was a B or C player at a company, I would be freaking out right now because you are basically no longer needed. That A player can now take on the majority of your responsibilities and use tools and be just as effective and not stretch too thin. So if you're a B or C player at any of these companies or a B or C player in business, you're going to get trampled by these people who are A players and know how to leverage these tools. Because it's funny, like you and I sit in this world and we're constantly talking. I mean, you're working it. I'm constantly talking to people, so I'm very educated on it. But you talk to the general public and ask them to prompt something or to use any of these tools, and they have no clue what you're talking about. Like if you just ask somebody to prompt ChatGPT, we know that just means write a good kind of call to action for it to do something. I would say 98% of people would say, what do you mean? Is that coding? So it seems like we're so far in, but I think we're still so early. And like what you said, I mean, that's a super long way to answer. What you said is so spot on of like 10x to 100x. And if you're not a 10x employee, you're like a 0x employee going forward if you can't leverage these tools.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be way easier. And like we're seeing companies, especially startups, like adopt these already, right? So it's like, I mean, I can plug in an agent to my cold email inboxes and have it respond and basically schedule demos, right? Like it has that knowledge to understand and function like that. Like these things are already happening. I think the thing that, what people talked about this is like the path that they're like, oh, they always this grandiose vision of this, but in reality, it's the small, like, deleterious task that a VA would do traditionally. Like that is what is actually going to be affected by this immediately. And that's what's going to happen in the next, again, 12 to 24 months. But
Let's talk about Swell. Like, for people that are listening now and are interested, what does Swell do? How long have you been building it? How has that been? And kind of where are you at with it?
Yeah, totally. So Swell AI is content repurposing powered by AI. We started building it in October of 2022. That was the official launch. We had it live before that. The first version of the product was a Google Drive folder. We had friends upload an MP3, like MP3s too. And then we download those, run it locally, and I would like manually email them back all the content. But we started out as basically just an AI writer for podcasters. And it's really evolved now into this like media like content repurposing, like media content repurposing tool. So how it functions, you upload a like long form piece of pillar content. Swell automatically will create clips based off of the moments that we've like trained it to find as like viral sections. It basically just looks for hooks and supporting ideas. It'll add captions. You can change the aspect ratios. We just added social scheduling, so the clips that it just generated, it can now be scheduled out to TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, LinkedIn, Twitter, anywhere you're trying to get it. And then since we create this transcript, what then happens is we can basically create any form of written content you want based off of that and that conversation. And so blog posts, newsletters, white papers, ebooks, like we even have like coaches that are living in it that are writing their whole courses like based on top of us, right? And so it's really just kind of this vehicle to do what people were doing previously, like how I make source content and then I'm trying to chop it up into all these different forms. Where we're seeing it being pulled towards more and more now, though, is like content marketing powered by AI. And so what that looks like is like, and honestly, like what we're kind of obsessed about is like, can we make a product where it's like a company just plugs into it and it's like this marketing brain that just starts growing the company, right? Like it has all of these playbooks, plays within its playbook that it understands. And based off of the structure and the biology of your company, whether you're SaaS, whether you're e-com, whether, and whatever it is, it just knows how to start growing basically your organization. And like we're seeing small versions of this already with even just like AI written content on blogs, right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like it writes content and then it looks at the data and then it goes and it writes more content and it looks at the data and it's just this like ongoing thing that's happening. And so I guess, to say it a different way, the future kind of this is, can we basically make people that are really good at product just focus on products and then have a tool like this in the background that's almost like their co-pilot for marketing, for content marketing, et cetera. But yeah, that's kind of the high level of it at this point. So
very cool. And like, is it wrong to think that the goal of this is almost like 10 years from now to replace the CMO in a business, where like a solopreneur could go in and build a product and not have to hire a bunch of agencies or not have to go through kind of this whole marketing push? They could kind of have like a co-pilot for it.
I think that's a part of it. How we see it probably happening, and like what it's the early version of this is, again, like we think we can build this social media manager powered by AI, right? It's like built within Swell. So if I don't have to go hire a social media manager and this thing just runs and I know my social accounts are growing, which creates inbound leads and, brand authority over time and all of this, right? It's a no-brainer for a company. Like they'll do that in a heartbeat, right? And so I think that I don't really know where this ends up. Again, we could evolve into something that's just honestly unrecognizable. If you look at us from now compared to where we started, it's an entirely different thing, right? But I think the bigger thing that we're focused on is like, what are the processes and really what are the goals that people are trying to accomplish? What are the processes that people are running right now to accomplish those goals? And how do we automate as much away of those processes as possible to get those goals to happen? And we're not sure if we'll be able to, remove the human from it entirely, but if we can get things 80% of the way there, and then that's when that human intervention happens. We just made a company 80% more efficient. And that's where we see all the value being added, right? It's like, I think the big thing with all these AI tools is it's really good at taking unstructured data and then structuring it. So like all the paperwork that used to happen in real estate, all these things, like they're just going to be automated away, right? I think that is kind of the first version of this. Then the tier 2 or phase 2 of this is like, cool. Now, how do we build these workflows, these processes, or even these loops that are happening within the logic of these tools, so that they're getting smarter over time and yeah, so anyway, I don't really have a good answer. My typical response is like, whatever the customer wants to pay me for, that is what we will build. So, and they seem to want to pay us for like a social media manager. So
Yeah.
we'll build it. So
That's what's been. Hey, you got to listen to the people that sign the checks, right?
100%,
Um,
100%.
so something interesting, like most of my audience is 20 to 25-year-old males who all are interested in business. So I'm sure there's a 18 to 20-year-old listening to us right now. If you had to pick what you think the biggest opportunity over the next 10 years is, what would that be?
Yeah, I think these tools, like any of this stuff, we have a new base technology that's just come into existence, right? So every time that happens, the analogy I keep using is like, imagine a snow globe and you shake it up and like you get to like place where the snow falls now, right? Like that's what happens with the technology at this scale. And so, I mean, I just saw this. My brother's kind of a degenerate finance guy and just showed me this demo. He was using Perplexity AI to basically do stock research for him based off of the beliefs of a specific investor's like viewpoints, right? And so he's like, hey, I want you to act and think like this person, and then go find me stocks based off of their principles. And now go audit these stocks based off of their, analysis, and then rank stack these based off this. And he's like, I just basically built this co-pilot with an off-the-shelf tool that can function, it's like, and so I think it's just figuring out how to use these as leverage points. But if I was, again, young and starting over again, here's the playbook I would run. So I'd go and I'd start an Etsy shop, and I would go get a tool that basically helps you find like all of the long tail keyword phrases related to all these different print on demand products, right? So what print on demand is they basically it's like drop shipping, but instead of you buying the product up front, they make it for you when it's ordered and purchased, and they handle the shipping for you. So all you're doing is basically middlemaning, but the margin you can get on these things are pretty good, right? I still do this a little bit on the side, but this is actually how I made my first money. It's so much easier now than it used to be, but so I'd go and you'd basically find like all of these different, a lot of the times it's like t-shirts, keychains, stickers. There's all these different things that you can create. Make a shop around that. And then I would use AI to generate the images that you're putting on these products, right? You can use something like Midjourney, and you could do, have it go generate like a floral horse running, right? And you're going to put that on a sweatshirt. Like that is the actual key, keyword that people search for. And then you use something like Photopea, which is a free tool. You can like remove that background, remove the white. And then I'd use something like Vectorize AI. If you just Google that, what it's going to do is turn that into a vector image so that it can be upscaled infinitely. And you can basically put it on any type of product that you're looking for. So at that point, I would then spin that shop up. And the listing fees, I think, are like 10 cents a piece now. If you put like 100 listings up, or probably more in the range of 1,000 listings up, you're going to start to see revenues happening, like probably get your first, like $1,000 to $2,000 a month. And on top of that, the more listings you have, the more revenues you're going to create. The game here is you have to do things that aren't trademarked. So I would like basically figure out how to, there's a free trademark lookup services. If you just Google it, you'll see if it's trademarked or not. And I would use that to get the initial cash flows. Then I would go and I would learn some skill. And that skill that I would learn would be something that's like digital, like whether it's video editing or SEO or, how to do Google ads, whatever that is. And I would start talking about that on YouTube. I would make a YouTube channel that's just like all I'm doing is talking about that thing. And then I would create some type of consulting service. It's like consulting service. We'll just say it's like I'm doing local SEO as an example. I'd create a consulting service where, and this is probably what I would do actually, where it's like, hey, we do local SEO for small businesses. Like how, I would do something like how to do SEO for, laundromats, how to do SEO for like dog kennel places, or how to do SEO for, all these different like small business categories that are in your city. And if you just post that on YouTube, people are going to search that. They're going to watch you go through this whole process on how you're doing this. And what they're going to see really quickly is, oh, this is actually way more complicated than what it looks like. And so you can just turn that into a service business right off the bat right there. And so that creates the inbound leads. They already have trust. They already saw that you know how to do this. And so then it turns into, okay, then you charge $1,000 or whatever, $1,000 a month or whatever it is to do this type of work for their business. If you want to do something that's a recurring service, not that there's a one-time payment, so that you get this revenues that are happening over and over again, right? So lead gen, any of that type of thing for these types of companies. So at that point, there's a couple different options that you can go and do. You can go and basically spin these processes out and then hire team members so that you can manage more of this at scale. But the challenge with this type of company is that you can't sell it. So it's a great cash flowing business, but you can't, they have terrible multiples. It's almost impossible to sell. And so that's where you could turn it into a productized service. You see decent multiples on those. It's typically like 3x what your revenues are. 3x what your basically your profits are of the company on a yearly basis. 3 to 5 is typically what we see these sell for. But really what I would do probably at that point is I'd figure out, okay, what is something that this, and by doing this consulting, you always find a problem in the world that can be solved. And a lot of the times you hack together some solution to solve it. And then you're like, oh, this is a repeatable thing that I can go sell to all car washes. So let me go sell that to all car washes. You can use an offshore team to like produce or actually build the software. Company I really like is called HTML Burger. There's these like dudes out of Bulgaria. You can get, honestly, if you just reach out to me, I'll intro you to, we have contacts in the Philippines that can get developers for like $2,500 a month for mid-level and like $3,500 a month for senior engineers. It's been awesome. My brother owns a company in that space, and so that's how we know them. But anyway, yeah. And at that point, like you've just basically leveled up from, how do I make my first dollar on the internet all the way to, okay, I'm now building software that I'm selling to a target audience. There's all these things that will happen through that process. But like if I, got everything stripped away from me tomorrow and had to go and start from zero again, and with, the knowledge and with limited knowledge, not as much knowledge as I have, and none of the relationships that I have currently, that is the thing that I would go, that process is what I would go and do. It's 100% like accomplishable. All the information for that is public. Like you can just find YouTube channels that will basically show you the step-by-step on how to do it. Really what it comes down to is just like, it's hard, dude. The first go, this is the hardest one. And then it gets easier and easier after it, because as you get capital and cash flow, each of the future businesses, like you have a way to fund those. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, that's how I do it. If I was 20 again, but
yeah, it's funny. One, I always remind people that business is actually hard. We have so many people on social media that make it look easy that I think people forget. Like starting a real legit company is hard. It's not easy. And then two, just listening to you talk through that, I'm thinking we're pretty damn lucky to grow up in this time in the world where anybody random could stumble upon this episode when it's posted completely free to YouTube, watch this and go and in 6 months be making $20,000 to $50,000 a month just following exactly what you said. And it was completely free and took 45 to an hour of their time to just find the idea. Like, what a crazy time we're growing up in.
100%, man.
It's mind blowing. Well, I mean, thanks for throwing the free game there. Like that right there. We could probably create some course and charge $1,099 and sell it.
Totally. Don't buy
and get
those.
Money for it.
I'm just gonna say this: like anybody that's selling courses isn't a practitioner. That's my opinion. A lot of people just disagree with me on this, but this is my view. If they're legit, they aren't selling courses and they're gonna give it away for free because they're at such a level now that that's not even like the only people that sell those things are basically trying to grift, right? Like if you're past that, you're just going to give the people below you all everything that you've learned like automatically, and those are the ones that are legit. So, anyways, that's just how I view all this, and I think it's our a duty as just founders and business people to pass these things on. Like I didn't know any of this shit, right? Like it was all people that kind of just helped me climb this ladder, and if I can help others do that at a pace that's way faster than me, I'll be super content because. It took me 10 years to get up to this place where I understand how this kind of all functions. If we can cut that down to 2 for the, other people, then that's a massive win. But again, to your point, like this isn't something that happens overnight. it's a process, but you have to think about it as a lifestyle choice, right? Like with all things in life, it's just, how do I turn this into something I do on a daily, monthly, weekly basis? So that's my call to action.
That's the call to action for this episode. So I ask the same question at the end of every episode to guests, and the question is, if you look 10 years forward and then you're looking back now, what needs to happen in the next 10 years for you to be like, I did it, I succeeded?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be super cliche, but there's a simple playbook for the type of businesses that I'm building in the world that I live in. It's basically build cash flow engines, buy S&P, and buy real estate. And like, that is the whole strategy here is like, why do you build software? It's because it has 80 plus margins, right? And so it just is this mass, you can pay cash pulls out of these businesses like you can't with like physical companies. With that said, it's the hardest industry in the world to compete in. The best people in the world are all here because those margins exist. But if you can figure out how to get it to work, or even a service business, you can figure out how to get it to work. You can just parlay that into these massive, huge returns. And that's really like what it comes down to. It's like, there's everybody, all these people out there that are like trying to, time the market and, all of these other pieces. But for me, it's like, I don't have the mental bandwidth to handle that. So like, that's why I'm going to go and basically put it in these assets that are like slow growth, stable, basically almost in the form of a security. Right. And so again, that's, to me, is the kind of the goal. I think where I'm at as from a founder standpoint, like I want to build a really like a platform is really what it comes down to, like a product that's big, that's not a tool, that does this whole kind of like, think about like a HubSpot or a Salesforce, like one of these things that kind of fit into this. And that's really what the bet that we're making with Swell. And I talk about Swell in public only. There's all these other companies that are happening behind the scenes that I don't discuss, that are just like these small micro tools, right? And those things are just smaller bets. They a lot of the time solve a specific problem. But I think the bigger play here is like, okay, like you have one big bet that you're doing. You have all these other things that are happening in the background simultaneously. And again, I'm just copying people that have come before me and done this. And that's like a way to make, wealth at a scale that's like, oh, cool. Like, my children's children are going to have a drug problem, right? Like that's what they're going to be worrying about. So anyways, and this is how I've seen other people kind of climb that economic ladder. So anyway, just copying what's done before me.
Dude, we've talked about stuff that you're building on the back and kind of just this cash flow machine that you're growing. I think it's badass. I'm really excited to get to watch you over the next 10 years and see you build that HubSpot. I mean, I would go work for you in a heartbeat. So I know you're one of those 100x founders and you're going to crush it. I'm lucky to have gotten the chance to connect with you and leverage you as a resource.
That's a huge compliment. You have no idea. So it's been awesome, like just to get in relationship with you, and stoked to come on and have me back whenever. I'd love to come just be manic again at any point. So.
Yeah, I like these episodes too, because like I don't have to do some crazy preparation. I know we could fill the hour with just shooting the shit about business and different ideas. So, like I said at the beginning, you flood my feed on Twitter. I want people to be able to go and connect with you, learn from you. Is X, Twitter still the best place for them to find you?
Yeah, LinkedIn and Twitter are kind of the two places that I'm most active. I'm starting to do some stuff on YouTube as well. Honestly, all channels we're just starting to experiment with because that's what our business is. And so I need to know how they function at a kind of biological level, at a cellular level. Yeah. So LinkedIn and Twitter are kind of where I'm most active. So yeah, reach out there if you have any questions. Happy to help however I can. Cheers.
Awesome. Yeah. And all that'll be linked in the description below. So you guys could just go click and connect. Let them know that you found it through Beyond the Wealth. So Cody knows that this interview was definitely worth his time. And again, brother, thank you so much. One of the few 2-time guests. And I have no doubt that you're going to be one of the few multiple-time guests. This has been a pleasure. I appreciate you for dropping so much value for all of our listeners. And I can't wait to see you continue to crush it.
Awesome, man. Thank you again. Again, huge compliments coming from you, and stoked to be here. And yeah, excited to come back. We'll talk to you soon.